Hello there, and welcome to the Monday/Tuesday Total Soccer Show Champions League special. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who, unlike Yannick Bolasie, will not be watching Arsenal Fan TV tonight.
I will not.
Taylor Rockwell is your name. Hello.
Hello, yes. No schadenfreude for me. No taking pleasure in other people's pain.
It does look rough, though. Premier League table looks rough for Arsenal fans right now. 14 points behind Spurs is what I saw.
Yeah. What, 7th place right now, I think it is? Or 6th place, maybe? Either way, not in the Champions League spots right now. Still, obviously, could make it there, but looking rough if you're an Arsenal fan.
We don't want to go too deep into it because we didn't watch this whole game. We just watched the last 10 minutes, basically for the drama here in the office. Your guess, is there a signed Arsene Wenger Arsenal contract, or is there not?
I mean, because the argument would be that if there were, that they're waiting until something really good happens and then they can release it. I feel like there is, but I'm going to say no, there isn't. And I'm going to say no, there isn't only because at this point of the season, I guess the only thing they could be holding on for is when he gets them top 4. And even then, that's not going to be some heroic achievement that will make everybody happy and forget the season that's happened.
Well, maybe they'll then present him with a trophy that has a contract in it.
Okay, sure. I'm not sure. Are they still in the FA Cup? That's the only other one I don't know. I can't even remember anymore. Now that United are out, I don't really follow the FA Cup. So maybe that's it. Maybe they're hoping that they win the FA Cup. Maybe they're hoping that they win top 4 and then they can announce the contract. But I feel like there's nothing big left that would justify holding on to it. And that makes me think maybe there have been discussions, there has even maybe been an offer, but nothing officially yet.
I think there's a room at the Emirates, there's an office with an office table, a desk, I believe what they're called. There's a contract on it that's been agreed by all parties. To the left, there's a pen. To the right, there's a shredder. And this never happened is written on the shredder. One of those two things is going to happen.
I've just checked, by the way. They are indeed still in the FA Cup. It's Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man City while you were talking. I like the idea that they showed him both and said, it's up to you, whatever happens. and it's also interesting because it is a strange situation that right now, outside looking in on the Champions League spots, obviously out of the Champions League that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Yeah. But it is strange that there is the possibility that they could get 4th place, win the FA Cup, and suddenly it's Champions League next season, top 4 finish, FA Cup.
I think they're holding on for that.
It's okay.
All right, shall we also talk USA, Canada, Mexico World Cup bid? It was announced today from the highest point in the Western Hemisphere, I believe, that US, Canada, and Mexico have submitted a joint bid.
What's the highest point in the Western Hemisphere?
I think it was the top of the New World Trade Center.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
That's where they had the press conference.
I would have thought Quito, Ecuador, but sure.
Maybe tallest building?
There it is.
That would make more sense, right?
Yeah.
For more details on the 2026...
I also don't know if Quito is the tallest place. It's just what comes to mind when I think of high elevations that wouldn't be fun to play soccer on.
I'm sure someone will tweet it to you.
Yeah.
If you want more information on that, I'll be recording a Goalmouth tonight with all the details, so subscribe to Goalmouth via iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use, and it will all be there for you. All right, Taylor, to the Champions League.
Yes, sir.
Quarterfinals are Tuesday and Wednesday. We are going to do quick preamble. Here's what you need to know about these teams. And we're going to do very specific predictions. I've got the home teams. You've got the away teams. And I've proposed that we do this in 1, chronological order. And 2, we give it the same order of importance that the people at the Fox Sports Network did.
That sounds good to me because I think, for example, the Dortmund-Monaco game listed first in a lot of places, but it's going to be the Juventus-Barcelona game that will be on FS1.
First in our hearts because of Christian Pulisic, but obviously the bigger, more glamorous teams, Juve, Barcelona, that's on Fox Sports 1, Tuesday, 2:45 p.m. Eastern.
And you've got the home team, so why don't you start, Mr. Grove?
Okay, Juventus v Barcelona. Here's what you need to know about Juventus. Top of Serie A, no surprise there.
I believe they play in Italy. Could be
I
wrong.
believe they play in Italy. They wear black and white.
New logo. I've heard some things.
New formation. As of January, they've gone to, under Allegri, they've abandoned the back 3 and they've gone to a 4-2-3-1. Higuain at the top, scoring goals all over the place. Left wing, Mario Mandzukic. The big Croatian striker, big centre forward, is playing left wing and just doing hard work for Juventus.
Interesting.
Right wing, Cuadrado. Remember him? Colombian Chelsea player, attacking right winger. Then you've got the playmaker, Paulo Dybala, Argentinian. Now, be honest, I feel like you're in the same boat as me here. I feel like we've underestimated Dybala over the last couple of years. As in, he hasn't really been on my radar as someone I'm talking about or excited about, but I watched some highlights, Taylor, and oh boy.
I think it's because we don't watch much Serie A and we don't talk about Serie A that much. So I've heard many good things. I've heard lots of pundits talk about how he's the future. I know he's been the subject to a lot of different bids from a lot of different clubs.
Only 23 years old, so he's kind of in that peak. Years are coming.
And has kind of justified it. And from what I understand is also part of the reason why they weren't so sad to see Paul Pogba go, because there's a lot more money they could spend elsewhere. And it was also the idea that they've got this other really young player who's going to be there theoretically for a very long time.
Well, here's what you need to know. Really tight control in tight spaces. Really creative, like change of direction can really fool you. Got some step overs, got some tricks, but also seems oddly sensible. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You don't see unnecessary tricks and then tackled. You see step over, make a bit of space, then play the ball. I'm a big fan of Paulo Dybala based on what I've seen over the last couple of days.
I think you're always a big fan. I'm just saying this from my perspective. I feel like you're always a big fan of practical soccer.
Yes.
You don't hate flair. You have no problem with flair if it's like
sensible
for
flair.
A purpose. Yeah. Like I think it's okay. Here I'm gonna go way out in an area that I don't know much about. I'm gonna say it's the difference between like free running and parkour. One is like getting somewhere the most creatively, and one is getting somewhere like, I don't know, like the most efficiently. I forget how it works, but essentially, like, you're not all about just flash, but you're about flash with a purpose.
Style and substance.
Yes.
That's what I want. Style and substance.
Remember parkour? Remember when we were all psyched about that in 2006? That was fun, huh?
I'm sure some people still are.
I'm sure
somebody
people
might
still
be parkouring as they listen to this Champions League preview.
Michael Scott is.
This brings us to my prediction. I have a couple of things to say, but my prediction is that
Parkour does?
Paulo Dybala
Gotcha.
will draw a yellow card from a Barcelona player.
Interesting.
Because there's going to be sort of Juve on the attack and they're going to have to stop him. Someone's going to take him down because he's kind of hard to stop, right? So Dybala will draw a yellow card from from a Barcelona defender in this game.
Does it have to be a defender? Could it be a defender who might be playing as a midfielder?
Who are we talking about here?
We're talking about Javier Mascherano, because that fits into my prediction. A bit of background first.
Yeah.
So Barcelona have had to say an up and down season is to put it lightly, because they've at times been looking very good, at times they've looked very bad. The maybe obvious example would be a 4-0 loss to PSG, then that dramatic comeback that saw them advance to this round.
Yeah, that loss was just the setup for the drama of the 6-1 win.
Sure, but it continues, where they look good intermittently. I think then this weekend they lost 2-0 to Leganes, I think it was. And that's kind of been par for the course this season. They've lost to some opposition that they probably should not have lost to. It makes it to the point where they are now less likely to compete for that La Liga title. It does seem like it's Real's definitely to lose at this point. But a big part of what has helped them get some stability is a shift. So they've gone away from that 4-3-3 into more of a 3-4-3.
I have heard this.
Because they've had some concerns about their outside backs. They don't really trust.
So just did away.
Yes, basically. So it's like, let's just put 3 center backs back there. Let's make it work. Interestingly, because this goes to something that you had discussed a couple months ago, in that midfield 4, it's been like 3, then Busquets in front, 2 wide midfielders, usually Iniesta and Rakitic, and the man in front, Leo Messi. It's been Sergio Roberto out on the wing. So and it hasn't necessarily helped Leo Messi that much. They've used that. They've still used him in front of that MSN, but it's still kind of tinkering with things. I think the problem in this game is going to be that Andres Iniesta is suspended, so I wouldn't be surprised if...
know that.
Sorry, not Andres Iniesta, excuse me, Sergio Busquets.
Oh.
That's the big one.
That's very
Sergio
different,
Busquets.
but also very important.
Yes. So Sergio Busquets is suspended, so I think the expectation is that Barcelona will maybe go back to that back 4. Mascherano will step in, and my prediction is that Javier Mascherano will get a yellow card in this game.
So, is Mascherano playing defense or midfield?
I think he will play defensive midfield I think he'll do the Busquets role, essentially, because there's not many other people that I think they would trust to step in and do that.
Yeah.
Like, I know some people have speculated it could be Andre Gomes, maybe Arda Turan, but I don't know if either one of them have
Arda Turan, then Barca in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think either one of them has the discipline and the kind of know-how to play that position at this point of a competition.
And they'll be dealing with Dybala, right? So we could get Mascherano versus Dybala, RG on RG? RG-Bargy?
Yep, yeah. So that's my prediction. Mascherano yellow card, because I think maybe it's just going to be a little bit too much for him right away. And I could see that, like, Dybala breaks past him or does that step over, and Mascherano's just like, no, kick, yellow card.
So we're kind of on the same page with our predictions, and we promise we have not colluded.
Yep.
Maybe we just watch too much of the same soccer.
It could definitely be the case. I think I will say this. This is really interesting because it seems like people are loath to say anything negative about Barcelona because they're Barcelona. And I don't mean negative, but I mean that people don't want to predict against them because really,
because of what just happened,
you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it does seem like everybody is kind of leaning towards, or not everybody, but a lot of the pundits I've seen are leaning towards Juventus winning this tie.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because Barcelona look like they're kind of a vulnerable animal. You know, Luis Enrique is leaving. You've got Busquets suspended. MSN is still MSN, but you've got issues like Neymar getting suspended at the weekend. He's going to miss El Clasico, like for kind of like temperamental issues. So maybe it just seems like there's a little bit of vulnerability there, and there's still that individual brilliance, but overall it's not quite the team that it's been in seasons past.
Okay. Can I give you some tactical notes on you?
And one other thing, yes you can, and then I just wanted to add, another key point of it is that like basically, I heard Sid Lowe talking about this, that basically 4 players don't...
Dr. Sid Lowe to you.
Yes, excuse me. 4 players don't rotate for Barcelona. It's that front 3, and it's Sergio Busquets. Those are the 4 who play like every game.
Undroppables, essentially.
So suddenly, when one of them is dropped because of suspension, it's going to cause problems in this first leg.
Oh, Iniesta is not involved in that? I guess because he's getting on a bit, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That's more of a resting Iniesta deal.
Yeah. He's still waiting for his move to FC Dallas.
Oh, that was which Champions League players would you send to MLS?
Yeah.
Oh, fingers crossed, FC Dallas fans. Fingers crossed. Okay, here's the thing that I've seen Juventus do. I talked about that 4-2-3-1, but the thing that they do is they try to shuttle or force you to come inside with the ball. So as opposed to like other teams that will try and force you to the wing, where it's theoretically the least dangerous, Juventus sort of stay in that 4-2-3-1 formation very rigidly, right? So they move across the field almost like synchronized swimmers, right? They're always in the same shape and always blocking off space. And they sort of gamble on the fact that they can force you inside where the bodies are because they're compact, and then they win it back there. And I feel like that works a lot in Serie A. I don't know if it works against Barcelona with Iniesta, with Neymar, with Suarez, with Messi, with all these guys that can really pass. I mean, no one passes and moves like Barcelona, right? Tiki-taka, even today. So I'm really interested in, do Juventus go with this against Barcelona, or does Allegri look at this and say, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't do this with Barcelona?
I think he should stick with what's worked for them
Stick
this
with
season.
what you know?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's been very successful for Juventus. This is a Barcelona team that's scored 26 goals in the Champions League this season. Juventus have conceded 2. So I think you could argue the opposition.
But how many times have they played Barcelona?
I would still say you stick with what's got you here. And to suddenly be like, never mind, we're changing everything because it's Barcelona and they could beat us. I think that completely messes up the game plan. It completely changes everything you've been doing.
So you're saying like dance with the one what brung you.
Exactly. Exactly.
The other one tactical note to look out for you, I mentioned Mandzukic on the left wing. You're going to see Bonucci likes to play long balls. He's going to be aiming like long balls out left occasionally for Mandzukic's head. And I think what you said about Barcelona's back 3 or back 4 is really important. Because if he's up against a centre-back, then Mandzukic is going to have a challenge in the air, right? If he's up against a little fullback, like what was it, Sergio Roberto would be the fullback, he's going to absolutely dominate in the air. So that's a thing that maybe Luis Enrique has to think about.
Indeed. We shall see. We shall see.
And final thing is a selection issue. Dani Alves, now a Juventus player, returning to Barcelona, possibly with a chip on his shoulder, because he did not leave under the best terms, right? He should have had a hero's goodbye. He kind of got a get out the door.
Did he? He left on a free, didn't he? Or was he sold? I can't remember.
They let his contract run down, and then he went to Juventus. So there's a selection issue for Allegri. Do I start Dani Alves, who's the more attacking, less defensive-minded player, or do I start Stefan Lichtsteiner, who is a more sort of defensively stable player? Because you're up against Iniesta and Neymar on that left wing. And I think this whole game, like how much Juventus are willing to attack, you'll know when you see who's playing right back. Is it Alves? Is it Lichtsteiner? So keep your eyes on that right back spot.
All right, we shall. Should we move on to the next game then?
Yes, we shall. And honestly, this is the game I'm more excited about because it has Christian Pulisic in it, even though it's the less glamorous game.
Hopefully.
Is that fair?
I mean, hopefully he's playing is what I mean.
Yeah. So he has been playing. Christian Pulisic has been playing, but mostly because all the other Dortmund players, the attacking midfield players, have been injured. Kagawa, Royce, Schürrle, Mario Gomez has that long-term injury. Kagawa's coming back, and Royce is maybe coming back. So there's a chance we don't see Pulisic start.
Yep. And especially because, the game against Bayern this weekend did not go so well for Dortmund.
No, they lost 4-1, and apparently Pulisic was kind of anonymous, and that's not something you hear about him very often.
To be fair, it sounds like most of Dortmund was anonymous in that game, so, grain of salt there.
The other guy missing in that game was Julian Weigl, the sort of deep-lying young German guy, deep-lying passer. Apparently, he is also coming back. So we've got a semi-recouped, re-strengthened Borussia Dortmund up against Monaco. we've watched a lot of Dortmund this year, right? We know that they play sort of three at the back, essentially 3-4-2-1. They possess the ball, they just move it around quickly, try and force an opening. I'm worried for Dortmund that against Monaco, with their sort of pacey counter-attackers like Mbappe, this could be trouble for Dortmund.
Okay. So why do you think? Because they'll leave space in behind?
Yeah, because they'll possess, and we'll all be like, okay, Borussia doing well, doing well. And suddenly, whoosh, Mbappe's down and through, and he's in behind, and it's 1-0 to Monaco.
You, my friend, seem like you are rooting for Borussia Dortmund.
I'm kind of unashamedly, right? Because I want an American, Christian Pulisic, to go as far as possible in the Champions League. Are you not with me there?
Fair enough. No, I'm representing Monaco, so I refuse to betray my Monaco constituents by siding with another team.
You literally can't afford to call Monaco your constituents.
Yeah, I know. I definitely cannot.
That's a higher tax bracket than either of us could even dream of.
Correct. But for Monaco, in that high tax bracket, you mentioned the names that we're missing for Dortmund. The big one that's missing for Monaco. How come I get the teams with suspensions? It's Timo Bakayoko, who was so important for them.
Boss.
Yes, so important for them against Man City. The man who I'm expecting to get a lot of different offers from a lot of different teams this summer.
Yeah.
He will miss out. It sounds like João Moutinho is likely to start in his place.
There are worse replacements.
There are. So it would probably be João Moutinho partnering Fabinho in the midfield.
Okay,
playing that kind of standard 4-4-2, that kind of splat 4-4-2.
Am I right in thinking but Bakayoko offers a bit more defensively than Moutinho?
Yes, and going forward on set pieces as well. So there is that. But I think if you're looking at the impact players, you mentioned Mbappe, you've got Radamel Falcao in there. I think the one that flies under the radar, at least for me, because, again, we don't watch much French League. We watch them in the Champions League when we can, when it's on TV. It's Valery Germain. I'm predicting that he will get at least one assist in this game, at least, because I think it's going to be a fairly open game with a couple different goals.
A couple different goals.
I'm not going to say who's going to get them. I'm going to say I think there will be goals in this game.
Okay, I'm going to say I agree with you. There'll be goals in this game. I think one of them is going to be Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and I'm going with a thing that we noticed recently, which is that Aubameyang seems to score from very wide or narrow angles because he makes approaches to goal, usually at the far post from a very tight angle, and then he'll finish from there. So here's my very, very specific prediction.
You can do yours, and then I want to go back and explain mine.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure most people have no idea who Valery Germain is.
Do you want to go back to Germain?
No, go ahead. We'll finish yours, then we'll go.
Okay, so Aubameyang will score from an angle of 45 degrees or less.
Okay.
Or fewer?
Hey, man, it's your prediction.
Less than 45 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be a very tight angle.
I like that we worked this out as though you were going to simplify it, and it seems like you've only complicated it further.
All right, would you like to go back to Germain then? What's your Germain?
Well, why do you say that about
because
Aubameyang?
he keeps making those sort of those runs to the far post at weird angles. I really think of them as weird angles where he sort of doesn't have much of the goal to aim at, yet somehow manages to find it.
So this is more like the trend of Aubameyang. You think will continue?
Yeah. This is an Aubameyang trait.
Gotcha. I like it. Well, the reason why I wanted to focus on Germain is because, as I said, I think we've heard a lot about Mbappe this season because he is that young player who's scoring all those goals, who's definitely going to get a move at some point. Radamel Falcao coming back and having a strong season, I think people kind of wanted to see that because I think people like Radamel Falcao. There's no reason not to.
Well, they like a comeback story.
But he is still coming back. He missed the second leg against Man City with injury. He started this weekend, but I think maybe you could make the argument that he started because people were getting rests and maybe he won't be starting in this game.
Okay.
Whereas Valery Germain, I think, is very important as a kind of veteran player for this Monaco team who does the kind of unsung work. It's another Busquets-esque player who isn't as big of a name as many of the other ones on that Monaco team, but does the work of tackling Fernando to set up the counterattack that leads to the goal for Monaco. He does a lot of kind of link-up play and is the cohesive unit in the attack there. So I think he will maybe not shine in this game, but I bet at the end of it, if there's a goal for Monaco, it's him who's getting the assist.
It's he won't shine on first watch. But you'll catch him
you never
second
know.
time.
Who knows? Maybe he'll be very shining, but I think he'll at least get that one assist.
Will you allow me a final word on Christian Pulisic?
Absolutely.
So I mentioned earlier he may not start as part of the front three because Kago is returning, maybe Marco Reus is returning. But if he doesn't, there's still a chance that he could go back to his older position from earlier in the season, which is essentially as a winger/wing back. Right. So against Bayern Munich, it was Paslak, played right wing/right wing back. I think from what I've read, he did not have a very good game. So Pulisic could be the one trusted with that instead. So there's hope, even if you see Kagawa start, there's hope Pulisic starts, but I'm not guaranteeing it.
Okay. All right. So An exciting game regardless, I would say, because it's Dortmund versus Monaco. I think there's going to be lots of tactical tinkering and exciting plays and skillful goals.
And lots of bigger teams watching. Isn't this kind of a shop window game?
I think I refer to this as like the game at which all the scouts will be present and alert. Yeah.
Maybe a specific prediction, you'll see a series of people with notebooks scribbling names down.
Just the entire stadium is just scouts. There's no fans.
80,000 scouts packed into Dortmund Stadium.
Yep.
All right, speaking of Christian Pulisic, Taylor, it is time for today's sponsorship. It's Ruffneck Scarves. Ruffneck Scarves are sponsoring today's episode. Official providers of scarves for the MLS. I nearly said the MLS.
Yep.
MLS, USL, NCAA, and the US men's national team and the US women's national team.
They also allow you to make custom scarves.
Yes, they do.
Do with that what you will. And we did this last week. We put out the idea of what would you put on a custom scarf for Jermaine Jones.
Yep.
We're doing this week, what would you do a custom scarf for Christian Pulisic?
We sure did. We put this out on Twitter, and we got many, many responses. I want to say thank you to everybody who tweeted suggestions. There were some really, really good ones, but we had to pare it down because otherwise the show would be like 4 hours long.
They were like a good 30 to 40 responses, I feel like.
So I feel like we should... There's some people who gave us great responses who we just couldn't fit them all in. We narrowed it down to, 8 or 9 in the end?
I believe so.
Okay,
first, we've got Ben Bromley, who says he would put a steam locomotive, or a steel locomotive, maybe both, on each end with hype train in all caps in the middle.
Mike Bates says his Christian Pulisic designed scarf, Pulisic is so talented that it needs to be simple. So it just says Christian Pulisic on one side, and on the other side it says 14 days younger than Google, which is quite a stat.
Colin Bish made me laugh and was slightly blasphemous, as he's gone with one side would say best Christian since, and the other side just says Jesus.
John Adams, not that one, says his Pulisic scarf would have a Hershey chocolate bar, the phonetic spelling of how Pulisic wants his name to be pronounced, and then this GIF. And he included a GIF of a Captain America salute.
So what would it be? Would you just have to do like the animated stills in each one that you could like maybe if you looked at it really quickly from left to right, it would look like Captain America was saluting?
Maybe Ruffneck Scarves have the technology to print a GIF on your scarf.
Future you might be over-promising here. Other options, one came from James Jones. Big difference there, maybe. He says, hype train, written on a train graphic on one side, arrived on the other.
Arrived. I love the arrived. That's a great touch. Dylan Dolisi says, on the front, it says the future of the USMNT. On the back, it says, except for Emerson Hyndman. That feels like a Total Soccer Show inside joke, right?
I believe it is. Not a Total Soccer Show inside joke, but maybe a U.S. Soccer inside joke. Comes from the Lightning Lord, who says, just simply it should read, I'm not the next Freddie Adu.
And finally...
With a lot of Freddie Adu jokes.
And finally, Andrew J. Abernathy says, it should be a picture of Atlas holding the world.
And I appreciate everyone who tweeted in responses. That one made me laugh in my house by myself out loud for a good 20 seconds. I really enjoyed that one.
Shouldn't be Atlas holding the World Cup.
I mean, it could be anything because he has so many different responsibilities.
Yeah,
I think it works no matter what. So if you want to create that custom scarf for Christian Pulisic, or you just want to purchase a scarf for yourself, you can get 20% off that order in the shop by using promo code TOTALSOCCERSHOW. That's all one word, all uppercase.
That's at ruffneckscarves.com. And thank you to Ruffneck Scarves for sponsoring today's episode.
Yes, sir. Moving on. Wednesday's games.
The biggest game of all, I want to say.
Really?
Wednesday, 2:45 Eastern, Fox Sports 1, Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid.
Yeah,
here's why I say this is the biggest game. With all respect to Juve Barcelona, if either of these teams doesn't make the semi-final, their season is a failure in the Champions League.
It's very strange, isn't it?
And one of these teams is not making the semi-final. Yes. Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. I'm kind of pumped for this.
Yeah, I would say this. I think Bayern Munich, it's especially the case that if they lose here in the Champions League, then it is an early exit from the Champions League. Yeah, they're going to win the Bundesliga, but they always win the Bundesliga.
Go back to coasting the Bundesliga.
From Madrid,
5 times in a row it'll be.
Yeah. From Madrid, we learned this when we did the trivia night a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
They have only won one title since Cristiano Ronaldo moved to that club.
So that's since 2009.
So I think you can make the argument that even if they do get knocked out here, if they hold on to win La Liga, then maybe it's not quite a failure.
Yes, okay, fair enough. Oh, so Real Madrid won't even try in this game.
Yeah, no, they don't even
They'll
care.
put their reserves out.
Yeah.
Real Madrid Castillo will turn up for this game.
Well, more on Ronaldo in a little bit. Do you want to go first or shall I go second?
That's the same.
I know.
All right, home team first, right? Bayern Munich are hosting this game. Here's what you need to know. Manuel Neuer was injured, is back. Ancelotti says he'll definitely be back for this game. He didn't play against Dortmund. Thomas Müller was injured, is back. He says he'll definitely be ready for this game. But he doesn't guarantee that he'll start, right? Because, as you know, Bayern have all kinds of attacking talent. It's going to be the classic Lewandowski in the centre, Frank Ribéry on the left, Arjen Robben on the right. There was a famous thing at the weekend where Ribéry came off, was not happy about it. Ancelotti gave him a big kiss, cheered him up. And I think there's a perfect... I know it's like just a nice little moment, but it's also perfect encapsulation of how Ancelotti's doing a great job sort of managing this team, right? Most people seem pretty happy.
Yeah.
Even the guys who are retiring, Alonso and Philipp Lahm. I'm sure they're not retiring because of Ancelotti's kisses.
Right. I would assume not.
The guy I'm most focused on is Thiago Alcantara. So he has become, to me, the sort of focal point of this team. He is the guy that makes all the passes, keeps the ball ticking, keeps the ball moving. My actual prediction is Thiago Alcantara will complete the most passes of anyone in this game. That's including your guys, your Modric's, your Casemiro's, what have you. Alcantara will complete the most passes in this game, and one of those passes will lead to a Bayern Munich goal. Eyes on Alcantara.
I don't know about the second part, but the first part I think is a pretty solid one because my guess would be that you will see a little bit more conservative Real Madrid play in this one, which means maybe slightly less possession overall.
And I'm expecting Bayern to have the ball a lot in this game. Two other things that I wanted to predict, but I felt like you wouldn't let me, were Arjen Robben.
I know what they are. No, I would not. Before you say them, no, I would not.
Arjen Robben will cut in from the right on his left foot and shoot and score. Could still happen. Against his old team.
Nope. Not allowing it.
Not allowing it. How about a Thomas Müller hello?
Absolutely not allowing that.
So Thomas Müller may not start this game because he's coming back from injury, but I'm pretty sure he'll play in this game at some point. I can see Thomas Müller coming off the bench and like just sneaking in when no one could see him behind the defence, popping up, scoring the goal for Bayern Munich.
And I want to add quickly, because I feel like it's been a while since last we clarified what this was.
Yeah.
So it comes from the idea there's the Irish goodbye, which is when you just leave a party or like leave an event without saying anything to anyone. You just kind of disappear. So we, I think in the 2014 World Cup, either just before or during, came up with the idea of a Muller hello, which is the same, only the opposite, which is essentially that Muller can just pop up without notifying anybody and suddenly is in this like very important position and finds a way to score, finds a way to an assist, something along those lines.
And in the serious analytical way, it's all about his reading of space. He can spot those tiny gaps and opportunities that no one else can, and that's why he just suddenly appears as if by magic and scores at the far post.
And here is why I feel like it's important to go into like clarification detail on what that term is about, because I think it could apply to my prediction here.
Okay.
All right.
I'm all ears.
So, well, I'll go with the prediction first, and then I'll give you some more about Madrid. It's essentially, I was reading the Managing Madrid SB Nation blog.
Yes.
And they had a very interesting post where it kind of broke down how it was that Atletico Madrid were able to equalize this past weekend. So it was a 1-1 draw in the Madrid derby. And it was essentially that they were very patient in possession. They moved the ball around.
Atletico or Real?
Atletico.
Okay.
Weren't trying to force anything. They're chasing the game. I think Real Madrid, content to sit back, let them have the ball as long as they don't get too threatening.
Yeah.
But what Atletico do is they start to, I don't know if it was intentionally focused on one specific player, that player being Casemiro, but they pull him out of position 3 different times. And in so doing, they create gaps into which other players run. That's how Antoine Griezmann is able to score the equalizer. Because basically Casemiro over-pursues, then overcorrects, then over-pursues again, and is eventually so far out of position that Atletico Madrid are able to exploit that.
So does this mean Casemiro is a weakness, or Casemiro is a strength and you go after the biggest strength? Like the Dick Cheney quote.
I don't know. It's a little bit of both. I think that's Karl Rove.
Karl Rove, sorry.
Yes, yeah. Only because
how could I possibly get those two confused?
Yeah, right. Shocker. But I think it's a little bit of both because I've heard a lot of praise for Casemiro, but I have also heard Madrid fans and Brazil fans be a little bit what's the word here? Like I guess questioning of his discipline and
suspicious.
They're not like I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but more just like they're sort of not sure he has what it takes to really lock down as a defensive midfielder.
Interesting.
And so I think he does a very good job from time to time, and I know Madrid fans tend to like him quite a bit. But there was just this one clip that made me wonder if a player like Thomas Müller could cause problems.
So Thiago could make the passes that pull him out of position, and then Müller could slip into the space that is left behind.
Exactly.
Right.
So my prediction is that. I have 2 predictions, actually, but the one that I will claim credit for, the other one I just want to mention, is that Casemiro will be at fault for a goal, but it won't be in an obvious, like, right away sort of way.
Okay.
Like, it won't be that he... What? Go ahead.
Like a TSS, watch it 5 times on the DVR.
Yeah, exactly. It won't be like he keeps somebody on side. It won't be that he fouls somebody for a penalty or fails to mark. It will just be sort of like, wait, where did that pass come from? Oh, That's where he should have been, and he lost his man.
All right, what's your other prediction then?
Well, so a couple of the things about Madrid in this game. So they don't have any players suspended. That's a first for my teams that I'm previewing. But Varane is still out with a hamstring injury. Pepe did start against Atletico, left the game early, broke 2 ribs. So it's possible that he won't play again for Real Madrid ever, because the speculation is that he will leave at the end of the season, maybe go to China.
So Sergio Ramos is definitely playing in this game.
It'll be Nacho and Sergio Ramos. I think that means maybe Madrid will be a little bit more conservative in their approach. Maybe they'll sit back a little bit more. They will recognize that they are away from home in an Allianz Arena where Bayern Munich tend to get some goals.
Yep.
So maybe they'll sit back, maybe they'll look to counter, and if they do counter, if they do get a goal, my prediction is that Gareth Bale will be the one to score a counter-attacking goal. Wow. Because the other thing to mention here, Bayern Munich, no Mats Hummels. Jerome Boateng has missed a lot of time this season. Javi Martinez, I believe, will be the other one starting at center back. You were the one to maybe clarify that.
Yes, he probably will start alongside Boateng. Apparently, he was an absolute monster this weekend against Dortmund. He destroyed all potential Dortmund attacks. So I don't think Bayern Munich will be too worried about it being Javi Martinez.
No, but none of those players are like particularly pacey, and I could see a situation in which if they're pushing forward, if they're trying to really establish dominance in possession, that pace...
Gazbaz breakaway.
Exactly. And final thing to note here, the reason why I've gone with Gareth Bale is because a thing that hadn't been getting much attention, at least not like for me, but is very much now picking up steam, is that Cristiano Ronaldo is quietly not having a very good season.
Really?
At least in terms of the Champions League. He has not scored in 613 minutes in the Champions League, has taken 33 shots during that time period. So basically he's in a bit of a scoring slump, leading to speculation. There are rumors in a couple different Spanish papers that Toni Kroos, Gareth Bale, and Luka Modric have all met with Zinedine Zidane requesting that Cristiano be dropped because of his form.
Are these sort of Barcelona-leaning Spanish papers that like to make trouble for Real Madrid?
It was not whichever. What's the one? Is it AS that's the Barca one?
Marca? I always
Marca, I'm pretty sure, is the Madrid one.
Okay.
It was neither one of those, but it was one that I think does have some different leanings one way or the other.
Okay.
But it does sound like maybe there is some concern about Cristiano Ronaldo's scoring form. So that's why either maybe he breaks it, who knows. But I'm going to say if they do score, it's going to be Gareth Bale on that counter-attacking goal.
Who would replace Ronaldo if they did drop? They're not going to drop him like that. It's a real dumb question.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. Yep. Correct.
All right, so Bayern Real Madrid is Wednesday, 2:45 p.m. Eastern. It's on Fox Sports 1.
So that's the big one, the super crazy El Clasico with a German twist to it. And then
there's Atletico Leicester.
Yeah.
I mean, which could be fun, right?
Could be fun.
It could be ugly, but that could also be fun.
I think it will be ugly.
Atletico Madrid versus Leicester City.
Yes.
Okay, so it's at the Calderon. It's at Atletico at home. Here's my big takeaway from this is... Atletico and Leicester play very similar styles, right?
Battle of a 4-4-2.
Yeah, they're 4-4-2. They're both pretty compact. Neither of them like to get stretched, and they both like to hit on the counter, right? But essentially, my argument is Atletico are just better at it than Leicester and have superior players. My analysis is that simple.
Yep.
Like in Atletico's system, it's like Leicester's, but they've got Griezmann instead of Jamie Vardy.
I think I saw it written as like they're the fully evolved version of Leicester City.
Yeah, they're like Leicester next generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to me, I just can't see any other result than Atletico sort of winning this game over 2 legs. I'm prepared to eat those words, but that's what I'm thinking.
And I'm willing to say here, the cliche I would say about this game from everything I've read and heard has become... Most teams remaining in the competition were kind of secretly hoping that they would get Leicester City because they were perceived as the weakest.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people expected Atletico to be very excited that they did get Leicester. Mm-hmm. But then there's this idea that they play very similar styles and maybe they're the ones who are least suited to capitalize on Leicester City being their opponent.
Yeah, so I guess it goes back the other way, right? That it could be that like Leicester won't give Atletico the space to sort of hit those quick counter-attacks and get in behind.
Yes.
But like if it just comes down to who has the most fight and who has the most quality and you like balance those two things out, it's still going to be Atletico Madrid, right?
Yep, I would say so.
Do you want to hear my prediction?
Do I?
My prediction is that at some point Antoine Griezmann will get in behind Leicester's defence on a counter-attack.
Hey, we've coordinated again.
We have?
Yeah.
All right, so my original prediction was that he's just too fast for Robert Huth and Wes Morgan. I've since come to understand that Wes Morgan is out of this game.
Yes, he has a back injury, so it will instead be Johan Benaloon. At least that's who played this weekend.
I'm going to assume that Benaloon is faster than Morgan because he's probably younger, but he's still not faster than Antoine Griezmann.
I'll tell you this.
So I'm going to say Griezmann still gets in behind and is too quick quick for Leicester's centre-backs.
I think that's a safe bet. He's a 30-year-old French-born Tunisian. Here's my telling statistic about Benaloun this season.
Okay.
He has played 360 minutes for Leicester in the Premier League.
All right.
570 minutes for Leicester's U23s.
Oh.
So he is playing much more time with their reserves than he is with their standard first team.
So pace or no pace, he's not an experienced sort of top-level player,
No.
right?
So maybe it won't be him. Maybe they'll try other formations, or maybe they'll try other people in there.
Not trying other formations.
Maybe they'll try other people in there, or maybe we'll see. Maybe this is some Shakespearean mind games, and actually it is going to be Wes Morgan in there starting.
That adds some extra drama to it, like Shakespearean mind games, as if it's next level when you forget it's not William Shakespeare managing Leicester City.
But I think you are absolutely right, and my prediction is that Leicester will concede a penalty, likely for a foul on Antoine Griezmann.
Great minds think alike.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's because, no disrespect to Leicester's opponents in the Champions League thus far, specifically looking at Sevilla, but I would say Antoine Griezmann is the biggest threat that they've come up against.
Yeah.
I would say he's one of the biggest threats Leicester have ever come up against, even looking at Premier League opposition.
That's interesting, yeah.
He is all types of good and all types of fast and very skillful and very clever and very tricky. And I could just see that back four really struggling to handle Antoine Griezmann.
Yeah.
And kind of the... Like how should I say, like slow directness of Atletico, that they are very patient, but then they can blitz you really quickly, and suddenly it's a goal out of nowhere.
I'm also thinking my fun Atletico point is I don't predict good things for Riyad Mahrez in this game, because one, he's up against Felipe Luis, who I think will kind of like just crush him into the side, and then just Atletico works so hard to like push you into the side. You've got probably Saul, I think, will be on that side also working hard. I just don't see them giving Mahrez any space to work in. Watch him dribble through 4 people and get an amazing goal now.
It'll be interesting, because I have heard some people say that maybe Atletico will try to like counter Leicester, and Atletico will actually cede possession and sit back and try to force Leicester to come forward. I would say this: Leicester had 32% possession in the 2-1 loss to Sevilla. In the 2-1 win against Sevilla, they had 31%. So I feel like they're not going to really change their game plan either. It's still going to be like direct and quick and aggressive, but I don't necessarily know if that will be enough to get by Atletico.
Yeah, Leicester aren't going to hold on to the ball, right? Because they're always going to try that like diagonal, like looking for Vardy in behind or looking to hit Albrighton or whatever. You know what I mean? There's no way they're just going to slowly build and let you strip the ball off them. Yeah.
But they definitely have kind of, by getting rid of Ranieri, by going on the run they did at least have the option to rest some players. So they started Vardy Mahrez on the bench this past weekend.
Ready for this.
Ndidi not even in the 18, as far as I understand. So they were trying to get their kind of bigger name players, the players that needed that rest, an extra couple days.
Is it worth talking about Ndidi? Because that's a player, like everybody's heard of Vardy and everyone's heard of Mahrez, but Ndidi, as I understand it, is basically the Conte replacement who may actually be capable of doing the same job.
Yes, I think slowly has played his way into... Like, definitely not like, oh, he is the new Conte. But he is, you can see why they were like, okay, well, we can replace him. Because indeed he is kind of doing that, all of the unglamorous work that N'Golo Kante did that eventually saw him get rewarded with that big money move to Chelsea.
And this would be a battle of like two sort of non-glamorous but like still really good central midfield battles, right? So you got Drinkwater and Ndidi against probably Gabi and Koke. I know they've mixed it up a little bit and what Saul has played inside sometimes, but probably if it's traditional, Gabi and Koke central midfield.
Yeah, and then I think the final point for Atletico, unless you've got more to go on, is just that it's probably going to be Griezmann and Fernando Torres. It has been Kevin Gamero, but I believe he is still out with injury.
So we see Torres.
It's going to be Fernando in the Champions League.
Okay, so that's your Champions League preview with very specific predictions. Again, the games are Tuesday and Wednesday, 2:45 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. We will have reviews of these games. We're hoping same day, schedules permitting. We'll be able to watch the games, get out reviews same day.
I think the only caveat here would be just that, say we choose to watch Dortmund, Monaco,
which we will,
and then that finishes 0-0, and the Juventus Barcelona game finishes 4-3.
Yeah.
Then it's probably going to take a lot of rewatching. We've both got commitments on Tuesday evening, so we might not be able to do it. That would be the only outlier.
Do we both have soccer commitments?
We
do, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Of course we do. What else would we be doing? Yep.
Living the rest of our lives?
Yeah, pretty much. But no, just soccer. Not allowed.
All right, we have another sponsor on today's show.
That we do.
And it is Howler Magazine. We are sponsored this week by Howler Magazine. We have the special offer, 20% off a subscription to Howler Magazine only good this week if you use code TSS at shop.howlermagazine.com. This is a special deal for TSS listeners only. No one else has ever got 20% off at Howler Magazine.
And when you say this week, Daryl Grove, you mean this week, because as far as I understand it, this sale ends Friday night, 11:59 and 59 seconds.
Yep, as soon as we
one
hit
tick
Saturday,
over, you're done.
As soon as we
full
hit
price
Saturday,
for you.
Yeah, because this is so. Obviously, Judge Qureshi, editor of Howler Magazine, is a friend of ours. So that's why he's given us this deal, and to TSS listeners, because TSS listeners are the type of people that George wants reading Howler Magazine. But you can't leave this big of a subscription sort of discount open forever, or George might go out of business. That last part's not true.
Yeah.
But you can only leave this deal open for a certain amount of time.
Now, Daryl Grove, I see that you have something in your hand right now.
I do, actually holding the Howler Magazine.
You really are.
It was from on QVC.
It was your weird, kind of. It was sort of like your weird binky for a second. Like you grabbed it and just held it tight as you were talking about Howler Magazine. Is it your security blanket, your security publication?
This is genuine. I recently saw Joy, the David O. Russell film, about I've forgotten her name, but the magic mop lady.
Okay.
And they tell her when she goes on QVC, it's all about what you do with your hands.
Okay.
So as we started the ad, I instinctively picked up the magazine and held it to show you, even though you've read it.
I have, and I've read the article on the cover.
Yeah, so on the cover, it's Roy Keane coming at you. It's his studs in your face, because the cover story is where have all the hard men gone? It's a Kevin Alexander story. It's all about sort of the slow demise of the sort of tough tackling defensive midfielder.
Yes, and I like that it had different kind of, how should I say, like component articles attached to it.
Yeah.
One of which was Matt Doyle's discussion of how the United States has always benefited from having like a very strong defensive midfield presence.
It was Mike Sorba. So not the first player you think of when you think of the 1994
Not
USA
even a
team.
player that I knew.
At the
I'll be
World
honest.
Cup, right? Yeah, because you think of Tab Ramos, you think of Kobe Jones, you think of Eric Rinaldi, you think of John Harkes, think of Alexi Lalas, of course. But Boro Milutinovic says, for me, the MVP of the World Cup, the USA, not the whole tournament, but for the USA team, was Mike Sorba, defensive midfielder, doing the work that no one recognized.
Yeah, so it's nice to read Doyle in a different setting than online print or printed out online print. And I thought it was a very compelling argument because it does make an argument. I don't really want to go in depth on this one. I know we're going to get response to it anyway. Okay. But it was another interesting view into how people like Matt Doyle, and I would say like us, like why we like Michael Bradley as that defensive midfielder. Yeah. Because he doesn't do the like typical role of one, but I think the Matt Doyle article would be that an argument would be that maybe that's not necessary for what the United States is trying to do.
Actually, so it's two separate articles, right? It's Kevin Alexander's article about the old-fashioned hard man, which is sort of like Nobby Stiles or Norman Hunter or the guys in England in the 60s and 70s who would just come and like really tackle you.
An era that I do not miss. An era that I do not miss.
It'd be like endless red cards now. You are not allowed to do this anymore. Then it makes the case that like the tipping point or the in-between point is Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, guys who were tough guys that people were scared of.
Do you want a spoiler alert?
But they also no, because there's still a pleasure in reading the whole thing. I'm just giving you the headlines here. Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, tough guys people were scared of, but they were still real footballers, right? Like Roy Keane can pass a football, Patrick Vieira could open things up. These were like fully rounded footballers, and now we've moved to a point where the rules are such that you really can't be a big old slide tackling guy. You would end up with 10-game suspensions every other week. And really the type of defensive midfielder now is the Michael Bradley type player that you think of, right? Read the angles, cut things down, intercept things that way.
Exactly. So I'm glad that we've fairly well described that entire article, but still a lot more to it. A lot more good little anecdotes in there about those hard men? Is that what he consistently goes
Where have all the hard men gone?
There it is, yeah.
So if you'd like to take advantage of the special offer for TSS listeners, and I know that's like marketing language, but that's really what this is. It's a special offer for TSS listeners. You go to shop.howlermagazine.com. The link will be in the show notes. When you go to get a subscription to Howler Magazine, a 1-year subscription, you get 20% off by entering the code TSS at checkout. The offer is good until when, Taylor?
11:59 seconds on Friday evening.
Thank you to Howler Magazine for sponsoring today's episode.
And thank you to all the members of the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network for sending in their various scouting reports.
All right, I'm looking in front of me. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scouting reports about promising young players that have come in, Taylor.
Indeed
Would you like to go first?
Sure, I will go with Axel Romain scouting Nathaniel Chalaba, I believe how you pronounce that one. 22-year-old English midfielder defender for Chelsea. I believe he's from Sierra Leone, but now plays for the England youth national teams.
Okay.
Chalaba hasn't played for Chelsea since December 31st, 2016, but he has made 8 appearances this season, meaning that, Axel says, he, quote, will receive the Premier League Champions Medal when Chelsea inevitably win the league, end quote. Axel also took the time to create a Mohawk 11 versus Afro 11 because Nathaniel hasn't been playing. He didn't have much else to do, so he did that. And I gotta say, I think Mohawk gets it.
Can I find this in my inbox?
You can indeed.
Okay, I'm going to go take a look at that. Can I say this also makes me like half happy, half sad? Like there's a young English midfielder, defender playing for Chelsea, getting a Premier League winners medal. But there's also a guy who's not really breaking the Chelsea first team on a regular basis. This seems to like sum up the plight of English youth at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. Well, keep reading.
Oh, happier news. Okay, Brett Walker is scouting.
You went from sad to happy real fast.
I promise that was not deliberate. Brett Walker is scouting Tom Davies, the 18-year-old English midfielder for Everton. Brett says Davies has played in every match for Everton in 2017 and has so far gotten 2 goals, 3 assists and a lot of key tackles. This past weekend against Leicester, Davies scored within 30 seconds of kickoff. That means he's got the fastest goal in the Premier League this season. With all that in mind, it's not surprising to hear that Davies has signed a new 5-year contract with Everton last week. You hear my voice breaking? I'm emotional, Taylor.
I know you are. Also worth noting, Brett added that he expects that Mason Holgate will probably also be getting a new contract in the near future. So hooray for that.
Fellow TSS Scouting Network member.
Yep. John C. Fernandez emails in scouting. Do we go Borja or Borja?
I would go Borja.
All right, Borja Mayoral.
The 19-year-old. I'm not taking any blame for it if it's wrong.
Yeah, that's fine. 19-year-old Spanish striker for Wolfsburg on loan from Real Madrid. John says things still haven't clicked for Mayoral. This season, he's made 19 appearances, which sounds good, but he's gotten just over 400 minutes this season with a grand total of 2 goals, both coming in games he started. So if you average that out, that's like 20 minutes a game, and if he started some games, then it's probably even fewer than that.
Okay.
So it sounds like more cameo appearances there. Nevertheless, Spanish newspaper AS, the aforementioned, is reporting that Wolfsburg want to extend the loan spell, but Real Madrid are not happy with the lack of playing time for the 20-year-old. The better news is that Borja recently scored for Spain's U21s in a 2-1 victory over Italy. Spain have qualified for the Euro 21 Euros this summer, so expect him to get a lot of minutes there.
This is a classic loan situation, right?
Yep.
Where Wolfsburg obviously think like, hey, this guy's good. We could use him. But we don't actually want to start him this week.
Yeah.
And Real Madrid are looking at like, you're not using him. Send him back.
Yeah.
So then it becomes this thing of like,
well, no, we will.
Yeah, but when?
Yeah. It's like, I feel like it's like when you're a kid and your parents like buy you a toy and then you get sick of it and they're like, well, we're going to give it away. It's like, no, it's my favorite. It's like, no. Like, you haven't played with that toy in 2 years. We're giving it away. Deal with it.
So Real Madrid are going to give him away?
Yeah. No. I think it's Real Madrid are taking that toy back.
I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, DJ Ringis is scouting Levi Garcia, the 19-year-old Trinidad and Tobago left winger for AZ Alkmaar. DJ says Garcia made a substitute appearance against Panama in World Cup qualifying. This would be the Hex, right? That match ended in a 1-0 home win for Trinidad. He was also an unused sub against Mexico. That match ended in a 1-0 home loss. It seems Trinidad coach Dennis Lawrence prefers a combo of Cordell Cato, Kevin Molino and Jovin Jones as his attacking midfielders, much to the chagrin of both DJ and Levi. I feel like you wrote this because you love the word chagrin.
Yeah, I do indeed. I think I summarized. Up next, Dylan Veach scouting Kai Havertz, the 17-year-old German midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen. On April 2nd, Kai became Bayer's youngest ever goal scorer, and he did so in phenomenal style. Leverkusen were up 2-0 against Wolfsburg, but then fell behind in the 87th minute thanks to 3 goals in 7 minutes.
Ooh, that's a spiral.
Yeah, not great. With many fans heading for the exits, the 17-year-old phenom equalized with a left-footed volley from the edge of the box. Afterwards, Lars Bender, Leverkusen's captain, was quoted as saying, "I've never seen such a complete player at the age of 17."
I have seen this goal. It's a bit good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a volley from just a little bit wide. Goes into the far post. Yeah.
And Dylan added that it is worth noting that Lars Bender has played against Christian Pulisic when he was 17. So maybe shots fired at Christian Pulisic. That's all I'm saying.
Ryland Arnold is scouting Ben Woodburn, the 17-year-old Welsh forward for Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp played the babies against Stoke City this weekend, so Woodburn was in for his first Premier League start. He sat behind Divock Origi in a 3-5-2 and looked good in an otherwise terrible first half for the Reds. Woodburn was subbed off at half-time for Roberto Firmino. Roland isn't certain if this was because Liverpool were chasing a goal, Woodburn was injured, or both.
Mm-hmm. Final report comes from Ryan Marzak, scouting Pione Sisto, 22-year-old, not 32-year-old. He would not be in the young scouting network at that point. 22-year-old Danish winger for Celta Vigo. Sisto is still getting minutes for Celta Vigo, but he isn't finding the back of the net. He did manage to touch the ball 9 times and get a yellow card in a 20-minute cameo against Deportivo La Coruña, but that's probably not the type of performance his manager was looking for.
No, those aren't good numbers.
Not great.
or coloured cards.
No.
There's no good coloured card, actually.
Not really. Wait, well, yes, there are.
There's the green card.
Yeah. There's the ones in Serie B, I think it is, that are like for fair play. Yeah.
Yeah, get one of those, Pione Sisto.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you to everybody
Move to Italy and get one of those.
Thank you to everybody who sent us scouting reports. If you'd like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, you would be supporting the Total Soccer Show. You can go to totalsoccershow.com/subscribe and all the information is there. If you go $5 a month, you definitely get a scout. If you go $10 a month, you get a question answered guaranteed once a month on the Total Soccer Show.
And $100 a month, the offer still stands. Daryl will get a license and drive to your home.
I mean, that's not write checks we can't cash.
I mean, it doesn't take much. Read a book, take the driver's course, you'll be fine.
Then drive to California.
I mean, assuming we're not getting somebody from like Japan, in which case
Alaska?
you're gonna have to do some ferries through Alaska.
We're assuming it's southeast of the United States, right?
Yeah, you never know. Whatever. You need to see more of the country, Daryl. Via our wonderful highways.
On that note, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you for making that generous offer to drive to whatever listener ends up subscribing $100 a month.
I'm trying to end the show before you sign me up for anything else. I will sign you up for Champions League reviews on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon. We'll be back to take a look at all the action. Also, please subscribe to The Goalmouth and you'll hear all about the World Cup 2026 bid Tuesday morning. All right, on behalf of me and Taylor, it is goodbye from us and we'll talk to you tomorrow.